95 milligrams intramuscular for the Evil Wizard. A 5-MeO DMT trip report by Evil Wizard, uploaded to earward.org April 20th, 2014. I've been refining DMT for years, but only once did I actually get high smoking it. I had to vaporize a gram or so. Smoking 5-MeO DMT never got me anywhere, vaporizing up to 60 milligrams over an evening. Acid was a gateway drug. I've done my acid, done the 2Cs, 4-ACO DMT, did 80 milligram once, 4-HOMET, and a dozen other popular research chemicals. I've handled myself well over the past 20 years. I know the line between use and abuse, and I'm respected in my scene as a trusted name in drugs. My girl and I had IM'd NN-DMT before, 1 milligram over a kilogram each, so I got 95 milligrams and she got 45 milligrams. I had a pleasant time with entities wheeling machinery into the room and showing me things. I could still walk around and recognise the apartment. There were just other entities there as well. I did a nitrous balloon and zoomed into the micro level where the animistic spirits in the walls and ceiling became evident. Crowds of elves were walking by and wondering where I'd come from and what I was doing with that balloon. I was like, don't judge me, bro. She wound up going down a wormhole and getting tortured for her past life indiscretions. It lasted about 30 minutes with no real hangover. So, without nearly enough research, we IM'd the same amounts of 5-MeO DMT, reasoning it would not be as strong by weight. Irrowid note. The dose described in this report is very high, potentially beyond Irrowid's heavy range, and could pose serious health risks or result in unwanted extreme effects. Sometimes extremely high doses reported errors, rather than actual doses used. Yep, I IM'd 95 milligrams of 5-MeO DMT. We did this in my apartment above the funeral home I work at. Yes, there were bodies downstairs. Within minutes the power came on me in waves. I would be pushed out of my body, then return for a deep breath. I was slumping on the couch with no muscle control, lolling and grinning. It came in waves, where we'd be forced from our bodies while nodding off like on a GHB high, where you just black out for a second and then jerk back awake. I kept repeating, just remember to breathe. I was uncertain that I would live, and felt that I was blacking out from blood loss. Reality was quivering, and the visuals were blowing my mind. Shit was going on heavily. Ghosts stood around, pantomiming the needle injection and suggesting tourniquets. I thought they were paramedics who were finding my body and was wondering why they weren't helping. I could hear them calling my name. I have haemophilia, a clotting disorder, and thought that I was bleeding from needle holes. I resigned myself to my mistake and my death, and I simply let go. I then found myself in a green field that went on forever, filled with some of those self-dribbling elf balls. They were each humming their own little tone, and they were all connected to each other. They were very comforting. It was so nice. Like being cuddled by bunnies. Totally reassuring and peaceful. My identity, or ego, was less than it was before. I felt that these were the Elysian fields out of Greek mythology. Gradually, I connected with each elf or soul. I felt that these were souls that had completed their karmic turns. As they each turned their attention to me, I saw a golden spiral, like a pie chart. I contemplated life's big mysteries, and as I solved each one, the chart filled in. I could hear them discussing my progress and supporting me. After the last mystery was solved, the spiral became a circle. The entire universe and everyone in it resolved into a single thing, and I felt the truth that we are all one. The circle, or universe, hummed a tone, and I hummed with it. This felt like the near-death experiences I read about where you are greeted by an all-encompassing light, or Jesus, or whatever. The elves seemed really impressed that I had managed to get here, and I figured this out without dying. They cheered and gave me a slow clap. I knew that I would live, and could return here any time. I came out of the deep delirium and was still on the couch. There were still ghosts about and spirals and vortices spinning in the air. I could tell I was back in the funeral home, but the visuals were astounding. I looked at my girl, and she was seized up, twisted to one side, but limp in the body. I was too messed up to take a pulse, but she looked dead. I could not see her soul inside her body. So I shook her and freaked out, looking for some way to save her, a tourniquet or something. I felt like a failure. My anatomical training was for naught. I'd killed my friend and lover. A previous girlfriend had OD'd on an opiate injection while away on a trip, and my life and career were over. I was clearly a degenerate weirdo who had killed someone with my fascination with psychedelics, despite my expertise. I tried mouth to mouth, but her muscle tension was too great. I wrapped a plastic spine and skull around my bicep, Halloween beer bong, thinking that this counted at least for style points, and went racing down the stairs, pantless. I opened the door and urged the paramedics inside, but they were just ghosts. So 60 minutes after injecting, I ran outside, into the funeral home parking lot. I retained enough sense of irony to realise that it looked like a drug freak out. I was still blessed out and in love with life, and thought I could crawl into bed with my neighbour or employer and he would help me save the girl's life. I tried entering the garage of the funeral home, but it was locked. The cars on the street seemed menacing, so I stood in the middle of the parking lot for a moment. The evil wizard, pantless in the summer night, spine as a tourniquet, all doors closed to me after I'd just solved the mystery of life. I went inside and called 911 and asked for medical attention. I told them we had done way too much DMT. They kept asking questions, but I left the phone to go check my notes for the coroner that I make before dosing something weird. My girl walks out of the bathroom, alive and very pissed. I am happy to see her alive, and I calm down. However, at this point, we are both convinced that we have brain damage. We are sitting on the carpet and the visuals are going wild. In this moment, I am totally zen, ready for paramedics to come and pull us out of there. Any repercussions are irrelevant. I am existentially wiped out after all this. Nothing matters right now except her. Staying with her in our future as burnt-out junkie fashionistas. Perhaps I can keep working funerals as the town idiot. I realise I will likely face criminal charges for the substances involved, but que sera, sera. 911 calls back, and she realises the cops are coming. Fortunately, she goes into emergency mode and harasses me into leaving, so they don't enter the apartment. I drop the lights, put on pants, shoes, hat, grab my ID and keys, still talking to ghosts as well, and lock up the apartment and car. I confront the weirded out paramedics on the sidewalk, tell them I'm having a panic attack and maybe an allergic reaction to my legit meds. They coerce me into the ambulance and to the hospital. I'm coming down throughout all this and talking sense, although my pupils are still saucers and my heart rate is 160. My blood pressure is also massive and my CO2 counts are high. They took all sorts of readings. I walked home 2 hours after injecting. She was waiting for me outside the apartment and did not hate me anymore. I realised that we had pulled through this massive ordeal. We took some Valium and slept. I worked a half day and my boss was totally unaware of the situation. My nerves were shot, but I felt so grateful that we were alive. My body felt great as well. I had left it, and when I returned, it felt slightly different. My sexual excitement was heightened. My appetite for food, music and sex, all amplified. I felt great, and I wanted to go back into that space. I really did, and still do. But I'll be playing with small doses, combined with NN-DMT perhaps, and potentiating them with dissociatives like 3-MeO, PCP and nitrous from now on. I felt that NN-DMT was more about the entities, and 5-MeO was more about the self. I like to make the comparison that NN is the grace, and 5-MeO is the power. That fits. I really should have had a babysitter. I risked our lives and careers and freedom for this. Although, I think a babysitter would have freaked out seeing us convulsing, unresponsive and not breathing. If I had a ventilator and something to calm my heart, I would do a dose almost as large at some point in my life. I'd do it somewhere safe, fully clothed, with a sitter and away from my domicile. As near-death experiences go, this beats the car crashes or illnesses I've experienced. I'm a mortician because I feel that death is life's greatest mystery, and I'm trying to get close to death to understand life and the universe. Now I know that solving the secret of life is as simple as dying. All matter and all beings are one eternal thing.